Welcome to the Magizoologist Profession Skill Tree Guide for Harry Potter Wizards Unite. If you want to know how to Magizoologist it up and have the best scroll and restricted section book investments, well, you came to the right place. If you're curious about the R or the Professor, links in the description to their guides. And to help guide us along, I'm going to be using the Magizoologist Skill Tree table from GamePress. So the Magizoologist is promoted as being the highly defensive, tanky healer class. But the reality is that they become quite powerful later on in the game, and are quite possibly the most powerful class in the entire game, which is something to keep in mind. And on top of that, you have the Revive skill, making you the most ubiquitous, all-important class to have in high fortress grinding. So early on in your skill tree, the main focus you want to have is power, because the best way to grind EXP early on in the game is to just go into the fortress in the first dungeon and then use just the level 1 runestone and just keep doing that over and over again. So the sooner you can 2HKO enemies, well, the better, right? So early on, you're going to go for this, and then go for either of these two. You can go for this guy, go for this, and then start amping up that raw daddy power so you can start taking things out, no questions asked. Now if you are curious about the precision and critical skills, precision and crit scales really poorly in comparison to raw power, so you're going to save those gains for much later in your skill tree if we're trying to be optimal here, right? Going for the Revive skill is nice because, if you're playing with parties and you want to push higher tier content, well, it's always nice to have a nice Revive in the pocket for them, but the main focus is going to still be on power. So here you have a little bit of a split, so you can check, do the math yourself. You got 10 scrolls for 2 power, and then here you got 12 scrolls for 2 power, and it's gated by precision, so clearly that's not the best deal around, so you'll want to go for this guy first. And then grab one of these, and then pump up that power. Now at this point, you got all of the pretty easy quick gains as far as power goes, and you should be trucking along, getting those 2 HKOs in the fortress content. So now you can go back up the tree and then start pimping everything else up. And of course, if you are already like mid-game, you've already been playing for a bit, and you invested unoptimally, yeah, don't worry about it. You'll get enough scrolls in time. Just make sure to drop whatever you're doing right now and then focus down the power path. So at this point, you're pretty optimized as far as the power path goes, and you can start pumping up your stamina. So take one here first and then max this guy out. I don't know why it was designed this way, but this is 4 for 7. And then here you get 2 for 6, 2 for 7, 2 for 8, 2 for 10. But you have to take this one first. So kind of weird, maybe a design flaw on Wizards Unite's part, but yeah, take that, take this, and then you can go back down and start taking this skill again, and then pumping up your stamina, and then you can also grab this as you feel needed, your proficiency power. If you play in group slot, then that could help you out since you'd be primarily beaten down on the beast enemies, so not a bad choice either. And yeah, all pretty straightforward compared to other professions. You're just like, yep, I got the power. Now it's time for the stamina. I'd still avoid the critical power and the precision just because they scale so poorly, and save that until you got so many scrolls that you just don't know what to do with them. At any point in time, if you feel like elite forces are becoming commonplace, you can always grab for this and then make a mad dash for the bravery, and the bravery also blocks 2 more power skills. But these power skills are pretty expensive. 22 for 2, a little steep here, and then this one here is 26 for 2, so definitely steep. So you can always save these 2 for a late night snack later on in your skill tree progression. Now skills to avoid are defense breach and accuracy. They really don't help you out that much, to be honest. Like if enemies are able to dodge you, 4%, 6%, so 10% for 36 scrolls, I think that's pretty steep and not really worth the benefit there. And then as far as defense breach goes, 2%, 3% for 22 scrolls each. Definitely not going to help you out against the few enemies that even have defense to breach. So I would save those skills for much later on as well. Like I'd much rather take this earlier critical power and precision than waste my scrolls and time on defense breach and accuracy. And you may as well take this skill. You're never really going to use it, but if you're trying to get the skilled spell casting achievement or whatever that they call it, you can just spam this in a dungeon for 5 minutes and then finally kill the thing that you're supposed to kill to try to work towards that reward better. So may as well pick it up. So overall, skill tree is pretty basic and simple to run through. Not too many pitfalls other than not taking power right away, so you're avoiding the 2 HKOs early on, which helps with the grinding, so that's why we're focusing on power first. But eventually, you are going to get those spicy restricted section books, and that's when you turn this class up to high gear. Yeah, because you want to take this lovely skill, Become the Beast, if you have 5+ focus, which you get in dungeons when you fight things. You get plus 40 power. So you have the lowest power in the game, and then you get this skill, and you basically have the highest power in the game, which is pretty nuts. So yeah, definitely want to get this. Problem though, is that it costs 15 restricted section books. Aw man. So you have to wait for events that pay out restricted section books. Some say at the time of recording this video, there's one going on right now. You better step outside, kids. And yeah, get this power. Big problem though with Become the Beast is that it's gated by this skill, Luna's Stamina Charm. 4 books. Now you might be thinking, how is this a problem? Why don't I just pick up both? Well, at this moment, it appears that events only pay out 15 restricted section books per event, so you're going to have to wait for 2 events until you're able to pick up Become the Beast. Which is to say, when the first event happens, and you got your first 15 restricted section books, you absolutely positively want to pick up this skill. Yeah, like no questions asked, no erases, this is the skill you're grabbing. And then from there, what about the remaining 11 books? Well, I'd say your best investments would most likely be this skill here and this skill there. That way you can fully open up the rest of your tree and access all the other skills. You could avoid picking this one up if you want to pump up your bravery charm, if you're encountering elite forces enough where you feel like that's worthwhile. That's also an alternative route you can take, but I like opening up all my options personally, so it's up to you how you want to handle that last one. But picking up the Stamina Charm Maxima is pretty important because it opens up that initial focus. The goal is to maintain your Become the Beast, right? So you're going to need all the initial focus you can get so you can just pop into the fortress right away, focus ablazing, and have that plus 40 power. So let's say the second event finally happens, you get the next 15, and you pick up this bad boy. Well, what do you do with the third event? Well, third event, you got 2 options. Option 1, you could amp up the Amplified Bravery Charm and then maximize either one of these 2 skills because you'll have 4 power-ups you can do all together. Or you can go for a Bird in Hand, which increases your defense by 15% when you're in beast mode. So I feel like either option is pretty good. This will put your defense at an effective 65%, which is 65% damage reduction, which is pretty hot. But the Amplified Bravery Charm is pretty insane. When you come across elite forces, that would be a total of 150% to your power or to your allies' power when they fight them, which is insane. So I feel like Amplified Bravery Charm is probably the way to go, and then you can save this Bird in Hand for the 4th event. So you max this guy out. Where do the remaining 4 books go? Well, if you're into solo play more, you may as well just finish off your healing spell. But if you're into party play more, I think your allies will appreciate being resurrected with even more HP back into their bodies. And that benefits you because then they can get back to killing right away and dying that much later. And if you're wondering about the late skill tree progression, you're like, oh man, Ryan, you kind of left us hanging there. Well, obviously you want the power gains first, and then everything else is pretty mediocre, to be honest. If you play in parties a lot, then it could be worthwhile to just rush down this tree and try to get the extra proficiency power. That's a nice route. But I'd say overall, going for anything at any rate is fine. But yeah, picking up this initial focus and then taking these focuses and maximizing your focus capacity, that's always a good idea too, because then you'll be even more set up for becoming the beast, the most important skill in the game that you should always be thinking about and working towards. Yeah, because then you start out with enough focus to have it activated, and then you'll have enough focus capacity where you can just revive people, heal yourself, and not have to worry about losing your Become the Beast buff. Now, to close things off, let's say you have the Amplified Bravery Charm, you got this powered up, you've become the Beast, you got the Bird in hand. Where do you go from there with your next restricted section books? Well, you could go with Vile Creatures, which would give you plus 25 to the Urklings, which is always nice if you just hate those things so much you want to smash them. You got plus 20 defense against those big spiders. Plus 20% defense is nice. I don't think it's that big of a deal, though. It's only up against that one creature type, so very limited. I think the next best contender, all things considered, would actually be all the way up here, Form Quorum. Now, Form Quorum's not that great of a skill. It's only plus 6% defense for 15 restricted section books, but it's when you're above 50% stamina, which is a buff that you will pretty regularly be maintaining. And then it also stacks with the Bird in hand, so you got even more defense going, just so you're more defensive all the time rather than more defensive some of the time or more powerful some of the time. That's my feelings on that. And there you have it. That is the Magizoologist Profession Skill Tree Guide. All you gotta know is take a whole bunch of power until it gets to be a little expensive so you can 2 HKO stuff in that level 1 fortress so you can maximize your speed and EXP gains. And then after that, you may as well take stamina, you may as well take everything else. The main thing that you have to worry about is your restricted section books and getting that Become the Beast so you can get that plus 40 power and then finally be insane. If you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and if you'd like to see more content like this, well then make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. SwagTips. You're wondering why I'm wearing this blue bathrobe, it's not because I just woke up. I'm trying to give the Magizoologist vibes here. Come on, man, this is what real Magizoologists wear. Huh.